Have you ever had any thought about playing defense?
Nah, I love that side of the ball, back in high school. I'm glad I had that position to be able to be that good at that position. But, we got our next today, Clowney. That's number 6, Dylan Stewart. I'm a receiver at the end of the day, and there's no tight end, no D end, all that. I'm just a receiver. So if anybody else will get categorized as a receiver, I know I can. So I'm just going to show and work like that. I'm not going to really put a number on it, but just know I'm going to pop it off. And whatever we seen last year, I'm going to really pop it off this year. So if I'm up there with the Gamecock Award finalists, hey, I said it first now.
This episode of As I Sip My Coffee is brought to you by Aussies. Columbia, get ready to scream for ice cream like never before. Aussies, the revolutionary tech-based ice cream truck, is rolling into town for its grand opening. Join us this Friday, June 6th, from noon to 3 p.m. at Adventures. Be one of the first to experience the future of frozen treats. Aussies has all the classic ice cream for your treats, what you love favorite, plus delicious gourmet ice cream sandwiches for the adults. And do not miss our incredible handmade fruit pops crafted with love right in Bluffton, South Carolina. Tired of chasing the truck? Aussies is text-based. Download the app and get notified whenever we're rolling into your neighborhood to stop the truck. Plus, book Aussies for your next corporate event, private party, or birthday bash. We bring the fun to you. Don't miss Aussie's grand opening Friday, June 6th, noon to 3 at Adventures. Hey guys, if you're a golfer or just looking for the perfect Father's Day gift, look no further than Palmetto Golf and Belts. Locally owned out of Chapin by South Carolina grad Brandon Cohn, Palmetto Golf and Belts sells needlepoint belts with Gamecock colors for half the price you would normally find anywhere else. Need more for your golf outing? Palmetto Golf and Belts also has golf tees, towels, golf gloves, all with the beautiful palmetto tree emblem. Find Palmetto Golf and Belts on Amazon or at their direct link, www.palmettogolfing.com. Here we are, episode 5 of As I Sip My Coffee, here with your host, Syvelle Newton. We're here at Touchdown, down in 5 Points, Columbia, South Carolina. Today I got my nice guest, tall, super fast, Nyck Harbor, wide receiver, University of South Carolina. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, just blessed to be here. Just an amazing day of work, behind me and just ready to talk with you.
That's good, man. Yeah, I just had one of your teammates, Brandon Cisse, here last week, and it was a great interview. You told me you watched it before you came. What was good about the episode that you got to see?
Just the realness of the conversation. Me and Brandon have definitely talked a lot of times. We practice against each other. He's an amazing DB, so I'm glad to have him on the team. But it was just like the realness, the comfortability that he had with you, like to really open up, because a lot of people that's new really don't tell that side of them. To be able to tell in front of a camera in front of you, that was a big thing for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm sitting at this table and I'm thinking like how small the table is, and think about, everybody talk about how tall you are and how fast you are. And I mean, you come in to the university, everyone's like, is he gonna do track? Is he gonna do football? We all know about your track accolades, and we're getting geared up to get all the accolades as far as you, getting away, stepping away. What was your decision that made you say, hey, football instead of track? I'm hanging the spikes up.
I feel like that was probably one of the toughest decisions I ever had. Like, to leave a sport that I've been doing for, I say about 9 to 10 years of my life, and to really like excel at it at the, one of the highest stages, which is collegiate athletics. The only thing that's higher is pro track. And basically us collegians are running as pros, we're running the same times as them, we're running against them all the time. So, I feel like for me to be able to compete against them boys and, just to see my level of worth in that sport, and then just to look back on football, me missing the whole entire year of football, basically, I'm gone from January all the way up into July, and then that's a lot of pivotal moments, as I've seen now. You miss a whole 2 months of lifting. You miss a whole month of spring training, which is very pivotal for you just to get them reps every day. To be able to go against a live DB, to be able to do this, to be able to do that, And then also, just to have that camaraderie with your teammates and actually like get to learn them, get to know them. We had a lot of new people. I had a whole new receiver coach that I didn't, really know and get to know until July. And then, for you to be able to be a great player, you got to have a great relationship with your coach and also your room, because your room is going to do anything that you wouldn't do for them. So, you got to go in. If I got to run a post route to get you open, you got to do the same thing for me. So if you're not there with them all the time, then they don't feel comfortable doing that to you. Because, everybody wants the ball. And, I want the ball too. So, for me to be able to get that trust from them, I had to be there. And it's just all for me to work, with 16, me and him have great, ideas, aspirations this year that, me and him want to accomplish. And, he's going to need us the same way we're going to need him, because, at the end of the day, he's the person that throws us the ball. So.
Yeah, I've been in that seat before, being the person that throw the ball, and I also been in the seat, in your seat, the person that's receiving the ball. We go all the way back, and you go back to your recruiting, and you start thinking about Maryland. You're from that area, and you think about, you missed all those schools to come to the University of South Carolina. What made you choose the University of South Carolina?
It had the best of all three worlds that I did. Academics, which I'm, majoring in public health with a minor in cardiovascular technology. Football, nobody really gets, Xavier Leggett, Juice Wells in the same receiving room. Those were 2 first-round receivers, at one point in time. It didn't turn out like that, but, both of them are still in the league now. And then, also at Omega, how you had my old receiver coach, Justin Stepp, and stuff like that. So, just them people alone, to help me develop, to help me learn, because, there's no other 2 people you can learn from. And then, it's the SEC. That's the best of all worlds. It's the speed lead. So you want to go against the best of the best, the fastest of the fastest, and stuff like that. And in track and field, Coach Tim Hall, what he did with me in 5 months is like extraordinary. I went from 20.76 to, 2019. And then, basically almost running 9 seconds. And I'll say really 2 months of really actually excellent running, and not just, conditioning myself to try to get back in the track shape.
Yeah, so, tell us a little bit about your family. Let everybody know, like, as far as like their respect of your decision coming to Columbia, like how did they feel about you leaving?
My dad was the type of dad, he was gonna follow wherever I went, and like, him and my mama did the same thing. They sacrificed so much for me, so for them to be in my process, to not influence my decision is one of the best things I could ask them to do, because they let me become the first thing over mad, making my own decision to where I'm gonna lead myself into college at. And then, my brothers, my sisters, everybody was just down for it. Like, they said, wherever you go, we're going. We got to fly there. We got to drive there. It don't matter. They're going to spend as much money and, get there, to see my games and see me, become somebody that, they always thought I could be.
Yeah. And then you played defense in high school. And when you got here, a lot of people were saying, like, well, if he's not going to be productive as a receiver, are we going to look at giving him a chance to maybe, be the next Jadeveon Clowney? I know you heard that a lot. I've read it. I've seen it over the past 2 years. And think about, what if you played defense? Like, have you ever had any thought about playing defense?
Nah. I loved that side of the ball, and back in high school. And I'm glad I had that position, to be able to be that good at that position. But, we got our next Jadeveon Clowney. That's number 6, Dylan Stewart. You see what he does in time and time out. But, me, I had me a dream, be an aspiration to be the best receiver in college football. And, that's what I'm setting out to be. So that's a decision that I made to make sure that, every day I put in the work to become who I want to be. And it doesn't matter, what I got to do. When I got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, leave the facility at 7 o'clock at night, catch how many adjustments I need to catch, learn how many routes I need to learn, learn the details of a route, learn the details of a coverage, the in and outs of a coverage. I'm going to do that because that's what I set out to do. I could have been a DM if I wanted to, but honestly, I let that for the past, and, now I'm just building myself into, who I am today.
Yeah. So you're in the middle of a coaching, I was in the middle of a coaching transition. I went from Coach Holtz, Coach Spurrier, different offensive minds and totally different concepts. So now you're looking at going into junior year, where your freshman year, sophomore year, you get 2 or 3 targets a game. We all as fans and myself looking at TV like, why we're not using, your speed this year coming in. What are you looking for differently?
Just give me the ball. I want the ball, in my hands, to make a difference, to a game, because I know I can make a difference. I'm a difference maker. And, with them 2 or 3 targets, at the end of the season, it was all meaningful targets. I wasn't dropping any balls. I was making sure that, every catch was meaningful because that's my life at this point. I got to a point where, I sat down with myself and said, it's time to really like show who you are. And it was, I'll say the Missouri game is when I clicked into, Nicholas Zaire. And, you start to see like, what this dude can become, with the targets that he gets. Obviously I didn't get a lot of targets, but I made a difference by block. If I'm not catching the ball, I'm gonna affect the game a different way. And it's either route running too, getting open, people are seeing that you're getting open, and, your quarterback's got to find you. But it's like, I'm just doing anything and everything I can, to help the team, help myself to be the best player I can be because, the goals that I got for myself is like, you had to tap into what you had to tap in to be able to get there.
Yeah, you got Coach Steps. I know Coach Steps well. You got him as your receiver coach. Everybody loves Coach Steps. And now you with Coach Fury. What is the major difference that you have seen in between the two coaching styles? Between Steps being a more, one of those guys. He's a little bit nicer, but he has a mean side too. What's the difference in between the two coaching styles that you have seen at receiver?
I'll say just, there are honestly 2 different types of receivers themselves. So, Coach Step, was a little bit bigger, a little bit more on the blocking side. Coach Furry, the advantage for him is he played defense and offense in the NFL. So the ins and outs that he knows about a defense is actually pretty insane. Like, every day we go into film study and, just learning the defense, learn how corners play each other. And like, he's telling me how this corner is going to play because he did it before. Coach Step really didn't play defense at that higher level. And in offense, Coach Furry once caught 100 balls in the NFL this season. And, that's pretty hard to do. So, just the mindset and the mindset that he's installed in me, was 2 different things from when, Coach Step was there to Coach Furry. He's pushed me a lot more harder. I'm working a lot more with him. And then, at some points, he just knows a little bit more about the game than, Coach Step. But, that's no knock on Coach Step. But Coach Furry, is just taking me to a different level that, probably Coach Step could have did and I had more time with him. But, I'm just glad to have this man as, really on my shirt right now, to represent me, just to help me get where I'm at.
So is that Coach Fury on the shirt?
Yeah, I will, sir.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Hey everybody, whether you're tired from tailgating or scoring touchdowns, there's nothing more important than a good night's sleep. It's time to upgrade your sleep at May River Mattress Company, the Low Country's mattress experts. At May River Mattress, not only will you find the top national brands, but you'll have an expert to help guide you through the process in finding that perfect night's sleep. Not to mention with their low price guarantee, you'll sleep well knowing you're getting the best value in the game. So why settle for anything less than a championship level sleep? Visit mayrivermattress.com or stop by their local Bluffton showroom today. May River Mattress Company, where the Low Country goes to sleep.
Man, we're in a time now of NIL, and you think about all the different NIL deals, you're thinking about all the things that there's to offer. Like, what have you seen the biggest part from going from your freshman year to now as far as the NIL, like, and how has it helped you? And do you have anything that's going on now in the NIL world that's big for you?
Yeah, so NIL has helped me in a very significant way. It showed me that I'm marketable off the field. Like, you got to build your own brand, to be successful in that space. And then it gives us players a different lifestyle than, just being football players. We're personalities now that, people like, some people don't like, some people hate, some people love. So like the personality, that I've got, a lot of people, tend to, favor towards me, which is, pretty good and stuff like that. But, just going into it, you just gotta be yourself. And that's where you see how multiple you are by being yourself and then seeing oh, this person, this is somebody that people actually want to follow. And then the more followers you get, the nicer you are to people, the people that you're nice to that you don't even know, it helps you build something to, a big empire that you can create. No, but that being said, of course I got a lot of deals on the table and stuff, but I talk about one that's like real special to around here, which is Sandstorm Savings, and that's probably one of my favorite ones right now because it's my first really like in-depth NIL deal in Columbia and in the state of South Carolina where like I'm getting my name around the state that I'm currently playing at, so that's one of the biggest ones to me right now.
Yeah, and we have to talk a little louder over this crowd, I mean, we're live. I mean, it's the first live show, so we got to talk a little louder. We got to give the fans what they come for, right? Yeah. So, pretty much, you're going into this year, and they use you on the outside a lot, so it's kind of easy. It's been easy for teams to really just kind of point out you. Like, okay, we know that he could take the top off the defense. What ways are we're going to try to use you this year that you haven't seen in the previous 2 years that you like about this new offense?
Coach Schuler is a great offensive mind. Him and Coach Frey, working up there, they want to give me the ball. I've told them, I'll express them to themselves, I want the ball. So, with that being said, I say what I did. I went into the lab for these last 6-7 months, to become a different player. So, you don't have to play me on the outside. You can play me in the slot. You can play me at wing. You can play me at tight end. You can play me at so many different areas because, I'm capable of running the routes. And I'm not just a go route runner, a host route runner. I can run any route on the route tree now. So that's what I did to myself, to help my offensive coaches, get me the ball. So I just made it easier for them, to find ways for them to give me the ball. And obviously, everybody knows I'm a great perimeter blocker, so then that leaves me, I can line up closer if I need to block a backer or block a safety because I can do that. That's what I've been trained to do. That's what I've been trained to do. So, I made it to an emphasis about myself to, make sure that I do what I got to do, to make everything work.
I mean, look at you. I'm pretty sure you can block, so that shouldn't be an issue. Which I'm pretty sure Coach Fury is big on blocking. Yeah. Like you can't block, you can't play, and that's one thing that I love about you guys. And over the past couple of years, yourself, Xavier, you talk about Juice, the size of the receivers to be able to block. So our run game, Rocket last year to get all the runs that he got. Yeah. So, and also for, to see Lenore's be successful in the run game, you guys got to block downfield. Like having him as your quarterback, like Lenore Sellers, which we're talking about probably, if not the top 3 quarterback, we know he's top 10. How does that feel like having him as your quarterback? Like what type of leadership has he offered to you guys in the huddle? And how has he helped take your game to the next level?
Having 16 as my quarterback, Dolores is, a blessing. Not everybody gets to play at the top. I say top of my quarterback. Ain't nobody above him in my eyes. Everybody else might say a different thing, but just playing with the best quarterback in the country and stuff like that. Not everybody else gets to play with that. And for you to be able to become in the same class as him, grow from freshman to junior now, you got closer to him, as, we got older. And like, when we get older and, you just grow more camaraderie, he tends to find you more. And then like, you being the number one option to the best quarterback in the, country, when he has goals that he wants to achieve too, you know that ball coming. So that was probably the biggest thing of what actually helped me, stop running track for the times is grow with this dude, make sure that me and him get on the same page. We got to work long hours a day. This is our job at this point, besides going to school. It really is a job. So, us going to work every day and just, becoming great work partners and stuff like that, for we can, help South Carolina, achieve its goals this season.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, like being able to get on the field and get some of those throws in. You're moving around in space now in the slot, a little bit of tight end, so it's big for quarterbacks. Myself, I played quarterback in the SEC, and it's very big to be able to get on rhythm. You remind me of the size of Jared Cook. I played with Jared Cook. He had a lot of fast as I don't know what, tall in space, great years in the NFL. you guys remind me of each other. And he found a home at tight end. And are you not scared to kind of make that jump into like being a, a physical speed tight end? Or, are you looking more to be like the Calvin Johnson of the world? I trained with him down in Orlando. Like, where do you see yourself fitting on the next level?
At the next level, I see myself in at, receiver type. I'm not putting my hand in the dirt. I mean, never say never down later in my career, but like as of right now, I know that I got set, and that's, in that 2-point stance, going to be a number one target somewhere. I'm not the type to put my hand in the dirt, even though I can block like that. But once you put your hand in the dirt, you kind of like in a different section where you got to block different type of people. And I'm not deciding blocking no DN. If I get bigger, I get slower.
So not the size?
I can go block to Dylan Stove in 2 seconds. Never mind, I put him on his butt. But that's beside the point. But, for me, it's just, I'm a receiver at the end of the day. And there's no tight end, no DN, all that. I'm just a receiver. So if anybody else can get categorized as a receiver, I know I can. So I'm just going to show and work like that.
Yeah. So, I always catch a lot of flack when it comes to, Carolina football. And, I'm very vocal on the good and the bad. So, little things, I like I said, I did an interview with your teammate, and I told him straight up, I said, a lot of people are looking at the defensive backs like having a drop-off because of Nyck, and, O'Donnell, those guys. Same thing. Everybody look over the past years. We had so much talent at receiver drop off. So they're saying the same thing. There's a lot of people saying the same thing about the receiver room. What about this receiving core is better than what you could see so far than the previous 2 years that you've been here?
We're faster, stronger, more depth. We're more of a receiver group than, we're ever met before. And we got everything that we need. We got people to play outside. We got people to play slot. We got gadget guys. Everybody can catch and, make their own plays and stuff like that. So I feel like we got one of the best in the country. Nobody might say that, but that's how I feel. And, you can really bump anything else that matters, outside of our building, because, nobody outside of our building besides, a couple people that play the game. And, they really see what they really see now. Everybody else that sits on their couch, makes these articles and all that. They never played a game of football in their lives. So, and they watched us practice for 12 to 15 practices. Oh, they'll see, this is one of the best in the country. They got one of the best players in the country and stuff like that. So, that's how I feel like we are. It's like, we're hungry, we're motivated, we're underachieved. So, we're just ready to go out there and show, what we got.
Yeah. And when you see guys like, Cam Newton and all these, celebrities guys that play the NCAA game, and I'm watching all the game players and things like that, and first thing they do, they pull and get South Carolina. One because of Lewis, and the other because they have you at wide receiver, and your ratings are crazy on the game. Like you seen these guys growing up and watching them play in the NFL. How does that make you feel, like, to see these guys actually now turning the table and picking you on a video game?
It's crazy. Like, you watch Cam back in, 2012 we got drafted. You see him play against Arizona in the game he had. And then you see dudes like No Cap. I'm trying to think of any other big rappers. And it's been a bunch of, rappers and people that I've seen. I grow up, watching, you say like, oh, I love to meet this dude. I love him to recognize me and stuff like that. And now, everybody's recognizing you now. It just gives you a different mindset. Like, you're here now. Now, how can you go from there? And say I was like an 81 overall now, back in the day. So, just imagine, if I produce more on the field, imagine my rating gonna be at Madden. I'm literally break the game and stuff like that. So that just motivates me, bro, just to go out and just to be better. Cause like, I'm already good now in the game. Like, imagine, if I pop off and then I really like show what I can do, then they just gotta bump the rating up. Then more people talking about you. It's just more stuff for me, more marketing for me. So it's just really helping yourself, just on a different platform. And that's probably one of the best parts I love about it.
We do this thing on As I Tip My Coffee. It's called a 2-minute warning. You're going to be the second person to do it. So right here is when we're at the 2-minute warning of the show, and I'm going to fire off maybe a series of 5 questions. And I'm not going to tell you what they are. I haven't given them to you, and I want you to answer those questions as quick as you can and get out of bounds with it. All right? Your favorite receiver of all time.
Julio Jones and Colin Johnson.
Your favorite NFL team.
The Washington Commanders.
Draft day. Who do you want to call your name?
The Commanders.
You serious? The Commanders early. Oh Lord. Okay. When you think about buying a car, what's going to be the first car you buy?
A Mercedes-Benz GT63 SE.
A what?
A Mercedes-Benz GT63 SE AMG.
Well, I wouldn't know nothing about it. I'll show you out there. Okay, real. Show me out. And last question. This year, how many stats? What are going to be your final receiving stats of this year?
God willing, I play the whole season. He's blessed me and all that, but I'm not gonna really put a number on it, but just know I'm gonna pop it off. And whatever we seen last year, I'm gonna really pop it off this year. So if I'm up there with the Blended Car Award finalists, hey, I said it first now.
Good, man. That's good. You say the Biletnikoff Award, right? And you think how big that award is. I had the chance to play with Troy Williamson, one of the known receivers here. I got a chance to play with Sidney Rice. Probably I think Sidney Rice was the best receiver. I mean, even though you had Sterling Sharp, I still think Sidney Rice was the best, arguably, receiver to ever play at the University of South Carolina. So you think about those guys that come before you. Who is Nyck Harbor that those guys was? Like, what is you're going to do this year, and what do you stand for that maybe we haven't known about those guys in their careers?
All them legends, I'll say, they did everything, just great. Everybody loves them. You seen what happened. You seen what they did. But I say the main thing is, you want to have the personality off the field. You want to have the monster on the field. Like, anytime we need to go make a play, just call 8. He gonna answer the phone. And I know they did that, but like in the biggest moments of the games, like that's what I love. I want them third down and 8s, them third down and 7s. Let's go get us a touchdown. Nyck, we need you. We need a play here. You need to go get a first down. That's what I want. Now, personally, I want to be the best Gamecock receiver in the season. I probably won't say overall because I didn't have that much production in my years. Like in the season, I want to challenge that. And if I'm above them on all that, then I think I did something pretty good.
And you got a chance to play with Xavier, and like you said, you got a chance to play with Juice, and you see what those guys did. And if you think about Xavier Leggett's career at Carolina, I mean, freshman year, sophomore year, I mean, how many years was he at Carolina? I think 5 years. So out of all those years, he was in the back, and then he stepped up for 1 year. So, this year could be the year that everyone knows about Nyck Harbor from the University of South Carolina. So with that being said, it's like when you get that opportunity to put on the performance, and how is it you guys get paid to play football? How is it hard? How hard is it to stay humble? Like, you come from a place where humility was a big thing. You talk about your family and how they were supporting you. You get all this NIL money. Like, how hard is it to stay humble by hearing your name called amongst all these people?
It's not hard at all when you grow it up and you're taught like, to always be humble to anything about yourself. Like, I don't need to brag about myself, and that's just not my personality. Like, I'm normally a quiet guy, so I'd like to keep to myself, make sure that I'm just doing the main thing is the main thing, because anything that you're doing on the field is going to speak for itself. And that's what I want. I don't want me to be saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Now, if I go out there and have that game, then I didn't need to say anything. Now people going to say it for me. And that's probably the biggest thing. You want to let people brag about you. and not you bragging about yourself. That's what my mama do all the time. Anytime we go to a store, to buy something, all of a sudden everybody knows she my mother, and we starting to get things free and all that. Like that's what I love right there. Like me saying something about myself to somebody else doesn't help nothing. Now they say something about somebody else to me, I'm like, okay, but you having somebody else that you don't know brag about you, it's probably one of the best things in the world.
Yeah. Do you have any form of regrets or anything about walking away from track or choosing South Carolina as your home school? Have you ever thought about possibly returning back to your home state?
Nah, the only time I return to my home state is when I'm going to visit my mom and my dad, or I'm getting drafted there. Like, South Carolina being my home is one of the best decisions I've made. I had a crazy recruiting process in the last 12 hours with something out of this world. You could ask Coach Beeman. I think he lost a few hair sales and stuff like that. But there, I didn't make no regrets in my life. Everything that I did in my life, has led me to the person I am today. No matter, what's happened or what didn't happen, I learned from it. I grew from it. I had to solve it, by myself. So, anything that I do, I wouldn't say it's a regret. It's a lesson, it's just an enjoyment at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure, man. Because I'm big on mental health, as you know. As I talked with Brandon, I asked him the same thing. Like, are there any challenges, being Nyck Harbor? I mean, you're tall. When you walk through any building, everybody, when you first walked in and I saw you, I'm like, God, he is that tall. Like, is there any type of things mentally that sometimes you have to kind of regroup and be in the position that you don't make any mistakes, or how hard has it been mentally making that transition?
Oh, mentally, it's been good. It's been real good. Like, sometimes you got mental struggles and stuff like that you gotta go through. Just the growing pains of who you are when you're not conforming. Everybody's kind of bashing you and stuff like that. You got something that it happens. Every athlete goes through it, but it's the way you deal with it. It's not the way you let it suffer to yourself. If I would have let all that talk and stuff to get to me, then I probably won't be where I am today. But every day you just pray to the Lord, and you let Him handle it, because at the end of the day, it's His plan. So, with Him just doing that for me, He just helped me get stronger and stronger, and it's just basically just elevated me to today. So, I loved it and stuff like that. But it is what it is now. So mentally, I'm good. I'm great. So, that's part of it.
Make sure you sustain that. I mean, because the more you sustain that, the harder you work, the more production you're going to have on the field. And as long as you have the production on the field, you're going to keep getting the strength to keep getting stronger and stronger each and every day. So, I appreciate you for coming. That wraps up another episode, episode 5 here with Nyck Harbor on As I Sip My Coffee. I'm your host, Syvelle Newton. Look forward to seeing you. Make sure you check out the podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, sir, bro. Great conversation.